Hey guys, it's Jackie. Welcome back to my channel. So for March, I thought I would do something really fun, and it's something that I do every year, but this is the first year that I've actually had a Booktube channel to do it. I was gonna say in front of people, which sounds really weird, but like to do it with people, with all of you, which is Book Roast's O.W.L.S Magical Readathon. This is the third year that this readathon has been going on. It is a lot of fun. It is, as you can probably guess from the name, inspired by the Harry Potter series and the O.W.L exams in Harry Potter. And the basic premise of this, which so much thought and care and detail goes into this challenge every year. It's actually kind of mind-boggling and humbling to be real. Like, Book Roast's challenges make the rest of us look like hot garbage, honestly. They're just so well crafted. But anyway, the idea every year is that you will be a Hogwarts student taking your O.W.L exams. And the O.W.Ls are very equivalent to the British GCSEs. Whereas like Newts later are equivalent to A-levels, which is usually the second half of this challenge that will occur sometime in the fall. Spring is usually for the O.W.Ls. And you'll be completing O.W.Ls or exams, i.e. book challenges, based on the wizarding career that you want to have. So depending on which career path you choose, you will be completing a different assortment of book prompts. And some careers require a lot more prompts, which the prompts cannot overlap. One book per prompt, so some careers require reading a lot more. Whereas other careers require reading only a few books. And this year there's also going to be something really interesting with like certificates in things like Animagus Training and Merpeople Linguistics and like a driver's license for the night bus and all of these different things that are kind of fun. And I think I'm going to try to do a couple of those if I can accomplish the primary TBR here, but we'll see. So I'm going to be listing Book Roast's announcement video in the box below so that you guys can go straight to it, along with the Google Docs where you can find not only the prompts but all of the careers. Book Roast always makes this really beautiful kind of flip through PDF book, which a lot of people print. But again, if you look through that PDF, you'll see again the amount of detail and attention that goes into this. It's just such a gorgeous challenge and so impressive. And again, I've talked about how like J.K. Rowling and I are going through a really weird breakup right now, but Harry Potter will always be really near and dear to my heart. This challenge always kind of gets me kind of geeked and excited about Harry Potter again, which it's not a Harry Potter reading challenge. You don't have to read Harry Potter, but like you can read whatever you want. But just like the aesthetics of it and the careers just kind of get me really excited. So the career that I have chosen from the career guide, mostly because it's the most similar to my actual career or the actual career that I'm pursuing, is a Hogwarts Professor. And this one is really foolhardy because it's certainly one of the more reading intensive of the careers. You have to do quite a few prompts for this one. So I'm going to go ahead and read for you. Do you find the idea of leaving Hogwarts behind unacceptable? Would you like to perfect a chosen magical discipline to the highest extent and bestow your wisdom upon the younger generations of witches and wizards? Our doors are always open, provided that you have what it takes to control a classroom filled with hormonal teenage students. I wouldn't have thought that I do, but apparently I do, because I've been doing it for 6 years. I'm just surprised as you are. So in order to pass this challenge as a Hogwarts professor for the O.W.L's stage of the challenge, which is this current phase, I have to pass 7 in total: a subject I wish to teach, defense against the dark arts, and 5 additional subjects of my choice. For a subject I wish to teach, I chose, quite hilariously, the history of magic, which is such a boring subject in Harry Potter, although I've seen a lot of really snarky tweets talk about like it really says something about J.K. Rowling that she thinks that like history class is so boring, which I'm not going to get into it right now. This isn't me being angry at J.K. Rowling, this is me enjoying this challenge. I decided to go with history of magic just because again, it feels the most true to like what I'm actually doing. Again, I'm writing a dissertation about fantasy and horror. I am writing a dissertation about the history of these genres and about queer monsters and the histories of those queer monsters. So to do history of magic feels the most like, I don't know, what I actually kind of do, perversely enough. The prompts for History of Magic, and as you'll see going down the list, each class has a different prompt, and the prompts change every year. And they're usually really interesting. For History of Magic is Witch Hunts, books featuring witches and wizards. So all you gotta do is pick a book that features witches and wizards in some capacity. And for that, I have chosen Cemetery Boys by Aidan Thomas, which this is a book I have an e-arc of, courtesy of NetGalley. I have been meaning to read this for a while. It is definitely a dissertation TBR book. It looks so interesting. I'm gonna read you guys a little blurb. Yadriel has summoned a ghost and now he can't get rid of him. When his traditional Latino family has problems accepting his gender, Yadriel becomes determined to prove himself a real brujo. With the help of his cousin and best friend Maritza, he performs the ritual himself and then sets out to find the ghost of his murdered cousin and set it free. However, the ghost he summons is actually Julian Diaz, the school's resident bad boy, of course, snatch. And Julian is not about to go quietly into death. He's determined to find out what happened and tie up some loose ends before he leaves. Left with no choice, Yadriel agrees to help Julian so that they can both get what they want. But the longer Yadriel spends with Julian, the less he wants to let him leave. So this is witchy, paranormal ghost romance, and I am so excited for queer ghost romance. So it's a book I definitely need to read for my dis anyway, and I think one that would be perfect for this challenge. So I'm really looking forward to that one. That's one of the ones I'm the most excited for is Cemetery Boys. So the next prompt, again, which is a required subject to become a Hogwarts professor, is Defense Against the Dark Arts, which is, I think, if I didn't do History of Magic, is the subject I would have wanted to teach at Hogwarts, definitely, just because of all my Remus Lupin feels. It just is interesting, but again, it was already a required subject, so and you can't really double up. So for Defense Against the Dark Arts, the prompt is Grindylows, a book set at the sea/coast, which I had so many of. Again, one of the recent Owlcrate books was All the Stars and Teeth, so I could have done that. What I opted for instead was Songs from the Deep by Kelly Powell, which is a mermaid gothic horror, so I'm pretty excited for that. Moira Alexander has always been fascinated by the deadly sirens who lurk along the shores of her island town. Even though their haunting songs can lure anyone to a swift and watery grave, she gets as close to them as she can, playing her violin on the edge of the enchanted sea. When a young boy is found dead on the beach, the islanders assume that he's one of the sirens' victims, but Moira isn't so sure. So it's a gothic mermaid horror murder mystery, and that sounds too good to pass up. Not a dis TBR book, but just one I wanted to read. Anyway. All right, and then it comes time for me to choose the 5 additional subjects, so if I can get the prompts up here. The 5 additional subjects that I went with, I kind of chose just based on the prompts. I'm looking down at my prompts so I can make sure that I have all of these right. I wanted to choose the ones that I thought I had books already on my TBR that would be best suited for these prompts. So the first one I went with was Arithmancy, something outside your favorite genre, which this one's going to be kind of interesting if I can get it. I'm going to go with Serpent and Dove by Shelby Maherin. And again, this is kind of an interesting choice because it's not even necessarily that this is outside of my wheelhouse. It's, you know, it's witchy, it's, I don't think it's historical fantasy, but it might as well be, as I understand it. Like, the setting is just basically like medieval France. So it's not even necessarily that this is outside my wheelhouse, it's that I have a feeling the romance in this is gonna piss me off so much. I don't know, maybe it won't. The point is, like, this is, again, not usually the kind of romance that I like. This is not the kind of enemies to lovers romance that I usually like, or at least as I understand it from reviews of this book that I have heard. So this is something that I have the feeling I'm probably not gonna like this book, but I have it and I wanna read it. So that's why I'm choosing it for, you know, something outside of my favorite genre. It's not something I typically would read. I'm so intrigued. I don't know why I'm so intrigued, but I am intrigued. I want to see. Again, it's been blurbed by Sarah J. Maas, which makes me kind of nervous about the romance, to be honest. But what can you do? So that's my next one. After that, I went with Astronomy, which is a book read at night. And I thought that this would be such a perfect book to read at night. It's one I've been meaning to read forever. It is on my dis TBR, and that is Shawnee Maguire's Down Among the Sticks and Bones, which is the second in the Wayward Children series. I have been meaning to read this forever. My friend Megan is probably going to kill me if I don't read this soon, because she wants me to read it so bad. And it just looks so good. It sounds so good. It sounds like everything I want in a portal fantasy and just everything I want in a book in general. It's absolutely, again, on my dissertation TBR. It's queer, it's monstrous, it's gothic, it sounds so interesting. And it's super short, and I think would be very interesting to go ahead and read at night, for the sake of atmosphere. I love the first Wayward Children book, and I expect I will really, really, really like this one, because Jack and Jill were my favorite characters from that first book. So looking forward to this one a lot. The next prompt is Care of Magical Creatures, which is a creature with a beak on the cover, right? I can't see what you can see. Oh, hippogriffs, right? Creature with a beak on the cover. And for this one, I'm gonna go with, I could have done Serpent and Dove, but I'm gonna go with Infinity Sun by Adam Silvera, which I picked up a copy of when I was in Los Angeles, just because it looks interesting, just because I really like stories about brothers who are kind of diametrically opposed, like Odd Couple brothers. That sounded weird, but like, you know what I mean? I love when like one brother is one way and one brother is another way, and they have to work together. I don't know why I'm such a sucker for that always. But it looked really good. And basically, it's as I understand it, an urban fantasy set in New York City about this magical war that's going on, and one of the brothers really wants to get involved in the war and really wishes that he had the magical abilities, whereas the other brother is not invested in it. And of course, it's the brother who's not invested who develops the magical abilities. And then they have to kind of deal with the tension of that. So I'm intrigued. Again, I don't know. I've heard middling reviews of it, but I don't know. It sounds fun. I like urban fantasy very much, and I'm intrigued to have an Adam Silvera fantasy novel, because right, there's elements of the fantastic in his other books, but nothing that's quite explicitly like this fantasy heavy. So looking forward to that. The next prompt that I went with is potions, just because it seemed like a sane choice, honestly, which is Shrinking Solution, a book under 150 pages, which for that one, I'm also reading something on my Disc TBR, which is a book that I've been meaning to read for a while, and which my friend Megan really wants me to read, because she read it and loved it, and typically when she loves something, I usually love it too, so I trust her judgment, which is The Monster of Elendhaven by Jennifer Giesbrecht. This sounds like exactly my kind of trash. Like, this really sounds like my kind of trash. Let me blurb it for you. The city of Elendhaven sulks on the edge of the ocean, racked by plague, abandoned by the South, stripped of industry and left to die, but not everything dies so easily. A thing without a name stalks the city, a thing shaped like a man with a dark heart and long pale fingers yearning to wrap around throats, a monster who cannot die. So hence why it's on my Disc TBR. His frail master sends him out on errands, twisting him with magic, crafting a plan too cruel to name, while the monster's heart grows fonder and colder and more cunning. The sorcerer's work is subtle, changing minds and curdling hearts with barely a trace left behind, but there are signs to read for magic hunters coming up from the capital in the south. So this feels very much like, again, when I say that this is my kind of trash, that like there's this very interesting kind of dark homoerotic codependent relationship between the master and the monster, which I'm always garbage for. And again, it's very kind of like revenge heavy and like kind of like V.E. Schwab's Vicious, like that kind of trash that I just, this is the good stuff. And I've heard that just like the humor is really pitch black. It's very gothic. It's very kind of, it's just dark. And it clocks in at exactly 150 pages. So it just made it. And I was so happy because I really have been meaning to give this one a read. And then the last of my subjects that I will be doing is Transfiguration, which the prompt for this one is Animagus lecture book or series that includes shapeshifting, which I had a lot to choose from off of my dissertation TBR, obviously, just because there's so much werewolf fiction on there. The one that I'm going to go with is Lobisona by Romina Garber. And this is a book that I also have an e-arc available through NetGalley. It doesn't come out until May. The cover is so beautiful. I'm probably going to end up picking up a copy of it regardless of whether I like it or not, because the cover is so beautiful and it's about werewolves. And it just sounds so fascinating. It's not a werewolf book I necessarily need to read for my TBR. However, it is a werewolf book that is doing things with lycanthropy as a metaphor for race, which is an intersection of my project, and so something I definitely want to pick up and read. It's something I would maybe, again, depending on how good it is, would have liked to have taught for the adolescent this fall, but that I literally have only been notified for 24 hours I'm teaching that class, and my syllabus is already so full of books that I want to teach that I'm trying to like whittle things down right now, and it's so hard to choose things. Lobizona was one of the things that I'm like, depending on how good this is, maybe I will teach it. I don't know. So to go ahead and blurb this one for you guys, some people are illegal. Lobisonas do not exist. Both of these statements are false. Manuela Azul has been crammed into an existence that feels too small for her. As an undocumented immigrant who's on the run from her father's Argentine crime family, Manu is confined to a small apartment and a small life in Miami, Florida, until Manu's protective bubble is shattered. Her surrogate grandmother is attacked, lifelong lies are exposed, and her mother is arrested by ICE. Without a home, without answers, and finally without shackles, Manu investigates the only clue she has about her past, a mysterious Z emblem, which leads her to a secret world buried within our own. So it's urban fantasy, a world connected to her dead father and his criminal past, a world straight out of Argentine folklore where the 7th consecutive daughter is born a bruja and the 7th consecutive son is a lobison, a werewolf, a world where her unusual eyes allow her to belong. As Manu uncovers her own story and traces her real heritage all the way back to a cursed city in Argentina, she learns it's not just her US residency that's illegal, it's her entire existence. So obviously this is intensely political. It is doing something, I think, both intensely political and potentially very, very thematically rich with, again, monstrosity as a metaphor for otherness, as a metaphor for race, as a metaphor for, again, being an alien, right? And so I'm too fascinated to pass it up. It looks great. Again, some of the reviews that have been coming out have been kind of like lukewarm, but I'm dying to give this one a go. Like, it just sounds so good, and it's such a beautiful cover. I hope it's good. It sounds great. So I am also planning on doing some of the certificate training that is available this year, which is a new feature of the challenge, which is just kind of like, once you have completed your O.W.L.S, if you want to, like, you know, read a few more books and add on things, you can also complete these challenges, which the first one I want to do is the Animagus Training, just like as someone who is Marauders trash. Like I really would like to do the Animagus Training, especially because the 3 books that are required for Animagus Training, which are Arithmancy, Potions, and Transfiguration, are already subjects I am reading, which the certificates you can double up. You can double up books that it's like if you're already completing these subjects for your O.W.L.s, then you can receive the certificate, you know, like college, right? It's like I'm already taking these classes, and if you take the right number and the right requirements, you can get an extra certificate on top of your degree. So it's like that. You can't double up books within your O.W.L prompts, but you can add the certificates on and double up there. So I do want to do Animagus Training, which I don't have to do anything extra for. I just have to successfully complete the challenge in order to do that. And then the other one I'm looking at is Merpeople Linguistics, which is Herbology, which is just a title beginning with the letter M. And so I have a couple books I could do for this. There's Monster She Wrote, which is a piece of literary history about the women who shaped the horror genre and the gothic genre, and like how influential female writers were in making that genre what it is at present. You know, people like Mary Shelley, for example, or Anne Radcliffe, who's someone I feel like you guys would be maybe less familiar with. And just that horror has always been kind of not a female-dominated genre exactly, but it's a genre that has had such an important place for women and a very interesting attraction for women in a way that's not always talked about, right? That like horror, like science fiction, right, is treated as like that this is a male-dominated genre, that like men read this, women don't read this, and it's like quite the contrary, actually. Like women not only read this, but women helped invent it. So that's what that book is about, and I've been looking at it for a while. I've been meaning to read it just for the sake of it. It's not even for my diss, it's just more kind of like literary academic pleasure reading, which is something I sometimes do when I'm feeling especially masochistic. The other option for this is Mayhem, which is another book that I have a an e-arc 4 through NetGalley Mayhem by Estelle Lore, which I don't know a ton about the plot. However, it was described as a YA feminist mashup inspired by The Lost Boys and The Craft, and like, I'm here. Like, it's 80s feminist horror pastiche, and so absolutely. And again, if I even do the Merpeople training at all, depends on whether I finish all of the other books on this list, and whether I'll do Mayhem or Monster She Wrote just depends on like my mood. It's like, do you want to read more fiction, or would you want to switch to something nonfiction? Because sometimes switching back and forth between fiction and nonfiction can kind of help, I don't know, like propel me through a TBR a little bit. But anyway, so that's all of the books that I'm planning on reading for this challenge. It is quite a few. I'm super excited about all of them, and I highly recommend checking out the Magical Readathon. It's such a fun challenge every year. And again, Book Roast is so casual and laid back about it that like it's low stakes. You know, the rules are often pretty flexible because the point is to just have fun with it. And the amount of, again, detail and care that went into crafting it and crafting all the materials for it and all of the prompts and all of like the beautiful certificates and supplementary materials. It's such a great challenge. I do it every year. So check that out below. Again, please like and subscribe if you would like to, again, at the end of the month, at the end of April, check back in and see what I thought about all of these books, which I'm so looking forward to reading. Anyway, till then, I will see you guys next time. Bye.